The morning sun cast long shadows across the playground of Southport Community School as head teacher Mrs. Sarah Mitchell walked through the empty corridors one final time. Her footsteps echoed against the freshly polished floors, each sound reminding her that in just 3 hours, the Prince and Princess of Wales would walk these same halls. The weight of the upcoming royal visit pressed heavily on her shoulders, but it was a different kind of pressure than what the school had endured just months earlier. Southport had been forever changed by the tragic events of July 29, 2024. The community that once buzzed with the carefree laughter of children had been shattered when a knife attack at a Taylor Swift-themed dance class claimed the lives of 3 young girls. 6-year-old B.B. King, 7-year-old Elsie Stankham, and 9-year-old Alice de Silva Aguiar. 10 others, including 8 children, had been seriously injured in what became one of the most devastating attacks on children in recent British history. The ripples of that terrible day had spread far beyond the immediate victims. Southport Community School, where many of the affected children were students, had become a place of profound grief and careful healing. Teachers who once worried about lesson plans and homework now found themselves trained in trauma counseling. Playgrounds that echoed with joy now held spaces of quiet remembrance. The entire community had been forced to rebuild not just their sense of safety, but their faith in the future. Mrs. Mitchell paused outside classroom 3B, where 8-year-old Emma Thompson had returned just last week after spending months recovering from her injuries. The little girl's desk, decorated with get well card from classmates around the world, stood as a testament to both human cruelty and human kindness. Emma's recovery had been nothing short of miraculous, but the journey had been long and difficult for everyone involved. The decision to invite the royal couple to visit had not been made lightly. When Kensington Palace had first reached out through official channels, offering support and expressing the royals' desire to meet with the community, there had been mixed reactions. Some parents worried that such a high-profile visit might bring unwanted media attention back to their healing town. Others felt that having Prince William and Princess Kate come would show the world that Southport was more than just a place where tragedy had occurred. After weeks of careful consideration and community meetings, the school board had agreed to host the visit. They had worked closely with the palace to ensure that the focus would be on celebrating the resilience of the children and honoring the memory of those who had been lost. It would not be a media circus, but rather an intimate gathering of healing hearts. As Mrs. Mitchell made her way to the main office, she reflected on the changes she had witnessed in her students over the past months. Children who had once run freely through the halls now sometimes paused at doorways, checking their surroundings. Art therapy sessions had become as important as math lessons. The school counselor, Mr. James Parker, had become one of the most important members of the staff, helping young minds process emotions they should never have had to experience. Yet despite everything, there had been remarkable moments of hope and healing. The children had shown incredible strength, supporting each other in ways that amazed the adults around them. 9-year-old Marcus Williams had started a buddy system where older students were paired with younger ones during break times. 12-year-old Sophie Chun had organized a memorial garden project where students planted flowers for their lost friends and created a peaceful space for reflection. The community response had been overwhelming. Donations had poured in from around the world, not just money but letters, drawings, and teddy bears from children who wanted to help their peers in Southport heal. A Taylor Swift tribute concert had been organized, with the proceeds going to support the families affected by the attack and to fund new security measures at local schools and community centers. Mrs. Mitchell's assistant, Ms. Caroline Foster, was already at her desk despite the early hour, fielding last-minute calls from palace security and local police. The coordination required for a royal visit was immense under normal circumstances, but the sensitivity surrounding this particular visit had made the planning even more complex. Every detail had been carefully considered to ensure that the focus remained on the children and their healing journey. The flowers for the memorial display have arrived, Ms. Foster reported, looking up from her phone. and the children's choir has been practicing their special song since 7 this morning. Mrs. Patterson says they're ready, but they're quite nervous about performing for real royalty. Mrs. Mitchell smiled for the first time that morning. The children's enthusiasm had been one of the most healing aspects of preparing for this visit. For weeks, they had been working on special projects to share with Prince William and Princess Kate. Art classes had produced beautiful drawings depicting their hopes for the future. English students had written letters and poems about friendship and community. The school garden had been transformed into a living memorial, with each plant representing hope and renewal. The security preparations had been extensive but discreet. Additional fencing had been installed around the school perimeter, but it had been designed to look temporary and unobtrusive. Plainclothes security officers had been conducting sweeps of the building for days, but they had worked quietly during off hours to avoid frightening the children. Local police had coordinated with palace protection teams to ensure that the visit would be both safe and welcoming. Dr. Rebecca Hayes, the school's new trauma counselor, had worked with palace officials to develop a schedule that would be meaningful but not overwhelming for the students. The royal couple would first meet with teachers and support staff who had been on the front lines of the healing process. Then, they would visit several classrooms, spending time with students who felt comfortable participating. The visit would conclude with a special assembly where the children could share their projects, and the memorial garden would be officially dedicated. As the morning progressed, staff members began arriving earlier than usual. Teacher after teacher stopped by the main office to check in, each carrying flowers, special displays, or treats for their students. The nervous energy was palpable, but underneath it was something stronger, a sense of pride in how far they had all come together. Mrs. Janet Morrison, who taught the class that had lost the most students, arrived with red eyes, but a determined expression. She had been one of the teachers most affected by the tragedy, having taught all 3 of the girls who died. The past months had been incredibly difficult for her, but she had refused offers to transfer to another school. These children need consistency, she had told the principal. They need to know that their teachers aren't going anywhere. The breakfast delivery from a local bakery arrived at 8 o'clock, a generous donation from the business community that wanted to contribute to making the day special. Fresh pastries, fruit, and juice were set up in the staff room, though most teachers were too nervous to eat much. The children's excitement was infectious, but it was mixed with a solemnity that reminded everyone why this visit was happening. At 8:30, the first students began arriving, dressed in their best school uniforms and carrying the projects they had prepared. 10-year-old Lucy Barnes clutched a handmade book she had created about friendship, with illustrations showing children from different backgrounds playing together. 11-year-old David Kim had prepared a presentation about how the community had come together after the tragedy, complete with photographs of memorial gardens and letters of support from around the world. The children seemed to sense the importance of the day. Even the youngest students walked more quietly than usual, their eyes wide with anticipation and a newly learned awareness that some events are bigger than everyday life. Teachers moved among them with extra gentleness, adjusting ties, smoothing hair, and offering quiet words of encouragement. Emma Thompson arrived with her mother, Mrs. Helen Thompson, who had been one of the parent volunteers helping to coordinate the visit. Emma still bore visible scars from her injuries, but her smile was radiant as she showed off the special poem she had written about courage. Her return to school had been a milestone for the entire community, a living symbol that healing was possible even after the most terrible experiences. The school's memorial corner had been expanded for the visit, with photographs of Bibi, Elsie, and Alice surrounded by flowers, candles, and hundreds of messages from well-wishers around the world. A special book had been created where visitors could sign their names and leave messages of support for the families and the community. 3 empty chairs had been placed in the corner, representing the voices that would always be missing but never forgotten. As 9 o'clock approached, Mrs. Mitchell gathered her senior staff for a final briefing. The palace advance team had arrived and was conducting last-minute security checks. Local police had taken their positions around the school perimeter, while plainclothes officers blended into the crowd of parents and community members who had been invited to witness the arrival. Remember, Mrs. Mitchell told her team, "Today is about celebrating how far we've come, not just remembering how far we fell. The children have worked so hard to prepare for this, and they deserve to feel proud of what they've accomplished. Let's make sure Prince William and Princess Kate see the strength and resilience of our amazing students." The royal convoy was expected to arrive at 10 o'clock sharp. 3 black Range Rovers would pull up to the main entrance, where a small welcoming committee of school officials, parent representatives, and community leaders would greet the royal couple. The first vehicle would carry palace security, the second would transport the Prince and Princess of Wales, and the third would carry their private secretary and additional protection officers. A red carpet had been laid out at the main entrance, flanked by planters filled with white roses, the same type of flowers that had been placed at the impromptu memorial sites around Southport in the days following the attack. The school's flag flew at full mast beside the Union Jack, both moving gently in the morning breeze. Children pressed their faces against classroom windows, trying to catch a glimpse of the approaching motorcade. Teachers attempted to maintain normal morning routines, but the excitement was impossible to contain. Even the most reserved students were chattering about meeting real royalty, wondering what Prince William and Princess Kate would be like in person. The significance of this visit extended far beyond the school walls. For the families who had lost children, it represented recognition of their loss and the ongoing impact on their community. For the survivors and their families, it offered validation of their courage and resilience. For the teachers and staff, it acknowledged the extraordinary work they had done to help their students heal while continuing to provide education and normalcy. For the broader Southport community, the royal visit was a moment of national attention focused not on the tragedy itself, but on the remarkable way the town had responded to it. The media coverage would show the world a community that had refused to be defined by one terrible day, choosing instead to demonstrate the power of unity, compassion, and hope. As the clock ticked toward 10, Mrs. Mitchell took her position at the main entrance, flanked by the mayor, the chief of police, and representatives from the families affected by the attack. Behind them, teachers and students filled the hallway, their faces reflecting a mixture of excitement, nervousness, and determination to make this day memorable for all the right reasons. The sound of approaching vehicles could be heard in the distance, and Mrs. Mitchell felt her heart rate increase. In just a few moments, the Prince and Princess of Wales would step into their world, a world forever changed by tragedy, but strengthened by the incredible resilience of children and the adults who care for them. The healing journey that had begun on that terrible July morning was far from complete, but today marked an important milestone. Today, the children of Southport would have the chance to show the world that they were more than victims of violence. They were young people with dreams, talents, and an unshakable belief in the power of community to overcome even the darkest moments. The convoy rounded the final corner, and Mrs. Mitchell took a deep breath, knowing that the next few hours would be among the most important in the school's history. The black Range Rover came to a smooth stop directly in front of the red carpet, its tinted windows reflecting the faces of the children pressed against the school's front windows. For a moment, everything seemed to pause. The conversations died down, the shuffling feet became still, and even the morning birds seemed to quiet their songs. Then the rear door opened, and Prince William stepped out onto the pavement. He was taller than many had expected, wearing a navy blue suit with a crisp white shirt and a tie that matched the school's colors, a thoughtful detail that had not gone unnoticed by the staff. His face was serious but kind as he surveyed the scene, taking in the welcoming committee, the decorated entrance, and the sea of young faces visible through the windows behind them. Princess Kate emerged from the other side of the vehicle, her presence immediately brightening the atmosphere. She wore an elegant but approachable outfit, a powder blue coat dress that complemented her husband's attire, paired with comfortable low heels that would allow her to move easily through the school. Her hair was styled simply, and her smile, when it appeared, was warm and genuine. Mrs. Mitchell stepped forward, her months of preparation suddenly, feeling both completely adequate and entirely insufficient for this moment. Your Royal Highnesses, welcome to Southport Community School. I'm Sarah Mitchell, the head teacher, and on behalf of our entire community, thank you for being here with us today. Prince William extended his hand with a firm handshake. Mrs. Mitchell, thank you for having us. We've been looking forward to this visit and meeting your remarkable students and staff. His voice carried the weight of genuine concern and respect, qualities that immediately put the welcoming committee at ease. Princess Kate stepped forward next, her handshake equally warm. We've heard so much about the incredible strength your community has shown. We're honored to be here and to have the chance to meet the children and hear their stories directly. The introductions continued down the line. The mayor, local council members, parent representatives, and community leaders who had all played roles in the healing process. Each person had their own brief moment with the royal couple, sharing a few words about their connection to the school and their experience in the aftermath of the tragedy. Among those introduced was Mrs. Angela Stankham, the mother of 7-year-old Elsie Stankham, who had been killed in the attack. Mrs. Stankham had specifically requested to be present for the visit, wanting to meet the royals who had sent personal condolences to her family. When Princess Kate took her hands, both women's eyes filled with tears, but Mrs. Stankham's voice was steady as she spoke. Elsie loved school, she told the princess. She was so excited about everything here, her teachers, her friends, learning new things every day. I wanted to be here today because I know she would have been thrilled to meet you both. She was always fascinated by princesses and would have worn her best dress and practiced her curtsy for weeks. Princess Kate listened intently, her own emotions clearly visible but carefully controlled. Would you tell me more about Elsie? What were some of her favorite things to do at school? The question opened a floodgate of memories, and for several minutes, Mrs. Stankham shared stories of her daughter's enthusiasm for art class, her love of reading, and her dream of becoming a teacher herself someday. Meanwhile, Prince William was engaged in conversation with Mr. David King, whose daughter Bibi had also been killed in the attack. Mr. King had brought a small photo album filled with pictures of Bibi at various school events, sports days, Christmas concerts, science fairs, and ordinary classroom moments that had taken on extraordinary significance after her death. She was fearless, Mr. King told the prince, flipping through the pages. Always the first to volunteer, always ready to help a friend, always asking questions about everything. The teachers used to joke that she would wear them out with her curiosity. Prince William studied each photograph carefully, asking questions about Bibi's interests and making observations about her bright smile and obvious enthusiasm for life. The emotional weight of these conversations was balanced by the presence of Alice de Silva Aguiar's aunt, Mrs. Maria Santos, who had flown in from Portugal to represent the family. She spoke about Alice's love for dancing and her excitement about the Taylor Swift-themed class that had brought her such joy in her final moments. She was dancing when it happened, Mrs. Santos said quietly. She died doing something that made her completely happy. We try to remember that when the sadness becomes too heavy. After these initial introductions, the royal couple was escorted into the school building. The main hallway had been decorated with artwork created by students from across all year groups, but the pieces were not typical children's art projects. These were works that reflected the children's journey through grief, healing, and hope. Paintings showed hands reaching toward each other across dark spaces. Collages combined images of storms and rainbows. Clay sculptures depicted trees with broken branches that had grown new shoots. The first classroom visit was to Mrs. Morrison's Year 4 class, where 3 of the deceased children had been students. The decision to include this classroom in the visit had been carefully considered, with input from child psychologists and the families themselves. The current students, many of whom had been best friends with Bibi, Elsie, and Alice, had prepared a special presentation about memory and friendship. 9-year-old James Patterson, who had been BB's closest friend, stood up with remarkable composure when Princess Kate entered the room. "Your Royal Highness," he said, his voice clear despite his obvious nervousness. "We made this memory box for our friends who can't be here anymore. We put in pictures and letters and some of their favorite things that their families gave us." The memory box was beautifully crafted, decorated with the girls' favorite colors, and filled with items that represented their personalities. Princess Kate knelt down to James's level as he opened the box and explained each item. There was a small paintbrush for Elsie, who loved art class. A miniature football for BB, who had been the only girl on the school's mixed team. A dance ribbon for Alice, who had dreamed of performing on stage. "We talk to them sometimes," explained 8-year-old Mia Chun, James's partner in the presentation. "When we're sad or when something good happens at school, we tell them about it. Mrs. Morrison says that's okay, that friends can still be friends even when they're not here anymore." Mrs. Morrison watched from the back of the classroom as Princess Kate spent nearly 20 minutes with the children, looking at their memory projects and listening to their stories. The princess asked thoughtful questions about how they remember their friends and what helped them feel better when they missed them. Her responses were genuine and age-appropriate, never talking down to the children, but also never forgetting that they were still very young people processing very adult emotions. Prince William joined them after completing his own conversation with a group of older students who had created a presentation about community resilience. His presence brought a different energy to the room. Where Princess Kate had focused on emotional healing, he seemed naturally drawn to the practical aspects of recovery and the systems that had been put in place to support the children. "I understand you have a new buddy system here," he said to the class. "Can someone explain to me how that works?" Marcus Williams, the boy who had initiated the program, raised his hand enthusiastically. For the next several minutes, Marcus and his classmates explained how older students had been paired with younger ones, creating support networks that extended beyond traditional year group boundaries. The little ones were scared to be alone, Marcus explained with the wisdom of someone much older than his 10 years. "So we made sure nobody has to be alone if they don't want to be. During breaks, during lunch, even walking to the bathroom, there's always someone who will go with you if you're feeling worried." Prince William listened intently, asking practical questions about how the system was organized and whether it was working well. The children's answers revealed a level of emotional intelligence and organizational thinking that impressed both royals and clearly demonstrated how the tragedy had accelerated these young people's maturity in some ways, while allowing them to remain children in others. The classroom visit continued with a demonstration of the art therapy techniques that had been integrated into the regular curriculum. Children showed their feeling books, journals where they drew pictures and wrote short sentences about their emotions each day. Some pages showed dark scribbles and angry colors representing difficult days. Others showed bright suns and smiling faces, marking moments of joy and healing. Art therapy has become just as important as reading and maths, Mrs. Morrison explained to the royal couple. "We've learned that children this age don't always have words for what they're feeling, but they can almost always draw it or shape it with clay or express it through movement." Princess Kate examined several of the journals, always asking the children's permission before looking and commenting thoughtfully on their artistic choices. "This is beautiful," she said to one young artist who had drawn a picture of children holding hands around a heart-shaped memorial. "Can you tell me about the colors you chose?" The resulting conversation revealed layers of symbolism that the child had incorporated almost instinctively: purple for sadness, yellow for hope, green for growth, and red for love. As the classroom visit concluded, the children presented Prince William and Princess Kate with a special gift: a hand-bound book containing letters and drawings from every student in the school. The letters ranged from simple "thank you" for visiting messages from the youngest children to more complex reflections from older students about community, healing, and the importance of kindness. One letter, written by 11-year-old Sophie Chun, had been selected to be read aloud. Dear Prince William and Princess Kate, thank you for coming to see us. We know you probably visit lots of schools, but our school is different now because of what happened. We want you to know that even though something very bad happened here, we are still a good school with good children and good teachers. We take care of each other now in ways we never had before, and that has made us stronger, even though it also made us sadder. We hope when you go home you will remember that Southport children are brave and kind, and that our friends who died were brave and kind too. The reading of Sophie's letter created a moment of profound quiet in the classroom. Princess Kate's eyes filled with tears that she didn't try to hide, while Prince William placed a gentle hand on Sophie's shoulder. Thank you for sharing that with us, Sophie. That's exactly the message we'll take home with us, and we'll share it with our own children so they understand how strong and caring the children of Southport are. The visit to Mrs. Morrison's classroom had taken longer than originally scheduled, but no one seemed concerned about the time. The conversations had been too meaningful to rush, and the royal couple had clearly connected with both the students and the teacher in ways that felt authentic rather than ceremonial. As they prepared to move to the next classroom, Mrs. Morrison approached Princess Kate privately. Your Royal Highness, I want to thank you for asking about the children's feelings and really listening to their answers. Too many adults want to rush past the difficult emotions and get to the getting better part. You understood that the sadness and the healing exist together. Princess Kate's response was immediate and heartfelt. These children have lived through something that most adults never experience. They deserve to have their feelings respected and their wisdom recognized. Thank you for creating a space where they can express both their grief and their hope. The next stop on the royal tour would be the school's new sensory garden, where children who needed quiet spaces could go to regulate their emotions and find peace during difficult moments. But as they walked through the hallways, both Prince William and Princess Kate were clearly still processing the depth of the conversations they had just experienced with Mrs. Morrison's students. The visit was proving to be everything the school community had hoped for and more, a genuine engagement with their experience that honored both their loss and their resilience. The sensory garden had been completely transformed since the attack, evolving from a simple outdoor classroom space into a carefully designed therapeutic environment. As Prince William and Princess Kate stepped through the wooden archway that marked the garden's entrance, they found themselves in a space that seemed to whisper peace and healing with every carefully planned detail. The garden had been designed by a team of landscape therapists working closely with child psychologists and the school's counseling staff. Winding paths made of smooth stones led visitors through different zones, each serving a specific purpose in the emotional regulation toolkit that the children had learned to use. Wind chimes made from recycled materials created gentle background music that helped mask the sounds of traffic and other urban distractions that might trigger anxiety in sensitive children. Mrs. Rebecca Hayes, the trauma counselor who had helped design the space, served as their guide. We discovered that many of our students needed physical spaces where they could process their emotions safely, she explained as they walked along the main pathway. Some children need to move their bodies when they're upset, others need to be very still, and others need to engage their hands in repetitive, soothing activities. The first area they visited was the movement zone, where a series of balance beams, stepping stones, and climbing features have been installed at various heights and difficulty levels. 10-year-old Marcus Williams was demonstrating the equipment for a small group of younger children when he spotted the royal visitors. Without hesitation, he approached them with the confidence of someone who had become accustomed to explaining the garden's features to visitors. This is where we come when we need to get our wiggles out, Marcus explained to Princess Kate, using the terminology that the counselors had taught them. Sometimes when I'm feeling worried or angry, my body gets all tight and I can't sit still in class. So I asked Mrs. Hayes if I can come out here and do the obstacle course 3 times, and usually that helps me feel ready to learn again. Prince William watched as Marcus demonstrated the proper technique for walking across a low balance beam, arms extended for stability. "Do lots of children use this area?" he asked. "Oh, yes," Marcus replied enthusiastically, "especially on Mondays and right after lunch." Mrs. Hayes says those are the times when people's bodies need extra help staying calm. And sometimes if someone has a bad dream about what happened, they come here in the morning before school starts. The prince nodded thoughtfully, understanding the unspoken reference to the trauma that continued to affect many of the children's sleep patterns. "It sounds like you've become quite good at recognizing when your body needs different types of help." "We all have," Marcus said with matter-of-fact wisdom. "Mrs. Hayes taught us that our feelings live in our bodies, not just in our heads, so we have to take care of our bodies to take care of our feelings." Princess Kate was drawn to the quiet zone, where several small gazebos and reading nooks had been created using natural materials and soft fabrics. Emma Thompson, the young survivor who had returned to school just weeks earlier, was sitting in one of the spaces with a book, though she appeared to be watching the royal visitors more than reading. "Hello, Emma," Princess Kate said gently, recognizing the child from the briefing she had received about the students they would meet. "Is this one of your favorite spots in the garden?" Emma nodded shyly, closing her book and making room on the small bench. "I like it here when the other children are being loud, and I need quiet time. Sometimes I read, but sometimes I just sit and listen to the wind chimes. They make me feel safe." The princess sat down beside Emma, careful not to overwhelm the child with too much attention. "What are you reading today?" "It's a book about a girl who goes on adventures, but always comes home safe," Emma replied. "I like stories where everyone is okay at the end. Mrs. Patterson, the librarian, helps me find books like that now." Their conversation was interrupted by excited voices from the creativity zone, where another group of children were working on a mosaic project under the guidance of their art teacher. Prince William had gravitated toward this area, fascinated by the collaborative nature of the work being done there. The mosaic was enormous, a permanent installation that would eventually cover an entire wall of the garden shelter. Each child in the school was contributing tiles that represented their hopes for the future, and the overall design depicted a tree with roots extending deep into the ground and branches reaching toward the sky. The symbolism was obvious but powerful: growth from strong foundations, reaching toward light and hope. "We've been working on this since October," explained Mrs. Jennifer Adams, the art teacher who had coordinated the project. "Every child has contributed at least one tile, and many have contributed several. The families of Bibi, Elsie, and Alice also contributed tiles in memory of their daughters." Prince William examined the section where the memorial tiles had been incorporated. Each girl was represented by a cluster of tiles in her favorite colors, positioned at the base of the tree where the roots were strongest. The placement had been carefully chosen by the children themselves, who felt that their lost friends should be part of the foundation that supported the whole tree's growth. "This tile is for Bibi," explained 9-year-old Sarah Wilson, pointing to a bright green piece decorated with a small football. "She always said she was going to play for England someday, so we made sure to put a football on her tile. And this purple one is for Elsie because purple was her favorite color, and she was always drawing pictures of flowers." The third memorial tile, representing Alice, was decorated with a dancing figure surrounded by musical notes. "Alice was the best dancer in our year," added 8-year-old Thomas Brown. "She could do all sorts of moves that the rest of us couldn't even try." We put her tile right next to the others because they were all best friends. Princess Kate had finished her conversation with Emma and joined the group around the mosaic wall. "How do you decide what to put on your tiles?" she asked the children. The question prompted an enthusiastic discussion about the decision-making process. Some children had chosen symbols representing their families. Others had depicted their favorite school subjects or hobbies, and many had created abstract designs representing emotions or dreams. The art teacher had encouraged complete creative freedom, resulting in a wildly diverse but somehow cohesive collection of individual expressions. "I made mine about reading," said 10-year-old Lucy Barnes, pointing to a tile decorated with an open book surrounded by stars. Because books help me escape when I'm feeling sad, and they also help me understand that other people have difficult feelings too. Mine is about football, added Marcus Williams, indicating a tile that showed stick figures playing on a green field. But not just because I like football. It's because playing football with my friends is when I feel most normal, like things are the way they used to be before everything changed. The honesty of the children's responses clearly moved both royal visitors. These young people had developed an emotional vocabulary and self-awareness that many adults never achieve, forced into wisdom by circumstances no child should have to navigate. Dr. Hayes led them to the final area of the garden, a memorial space that had been created in collaboration with the families of the 3 girls who had died. Unlike the formal memorials that had been established elsewhere in the community, this space was designed specifically for children, a place where young people could feel comfortable expressing their grief in their own ways. 3 small apple trees had been planted in a triangle formation, each one representing one of the girls. The trees were young and still growing, symbolizing lives that had been cut short but would continue to flourish in memory. Around each tree, the children had created small offerings, painted stones, friendship bracelets, drawings protected in weather-resistant holders, and small toys that had been meaningful to their lost friends. The children come here whenever they want to talk to BB, Elsie, and Alice, Dr. Hayes explained. We found that having a designated space for that kind of communication has been very healing. Some children leave letters, others just sit quietly for a few minutes, and some like to tell the trees about their day or about things happening at school. Prince William approached the tree planted for BB and read some of the letters that had been left there. One, clearly written by a very young child, simply said, "Dear BB, I scored a goal in PE today, and I thought you would be happy about it. I hope you're playing football in heaven. Love from your friend James." Another, more sophisticated letter discussed a book that the writer thought BB would have enjoyed and promised to read it aloud to her tree during the next visit. The memorial trees were surrounded by the garden's most spectacular feature, thousands of sunflowers that had been planted by children from schools across the region. The massive golden blooms created a backdrop that was both beautiful and symbolic, representing the way light could grow from the darkest soil. Each sunflower had been planted with a wish or prayer for the Southport community, creating a living testament to the widespread support the town had received. Princess Kate was particularly drawn to a small bench that had been placed among the sunflowers, engraved with a simple message. In this place, sadness and joy grow together. The bench had been funded by donations from children around the world who had heard about the Southport attack and wanted to contribute something meaningful to the healing process. We use this space for our weekly remembrance circle, Dr. Hayes explained. Every Friday afternoon, any child who wants to can join us here for a few minutes. We light candles for BB, Elsie, and Alice. We share something good that happened during the week, and we talk about anything that's been troubling us. It's become one of our most important healing rituals. As if on cue, a small group of children emerged from the school building, carrying the materials for that day's remembered circle. It was 11-year-old Sophie Chun leading the procession, followed by 6 other students of various ages. They moved with the quiet dignity of people participating in something sacred, but their faces showed no fear or reluctance. This had clearly become a meaningful part of their weekly routine. Would it be appropriate for us to observe? Princess Kate asked Dr. Hayes quietly. We don't want to intrude on something so personal. Dr. Hayes consulted quickly with Sophie, who nodded enthusiastically. They would be honored to have you join us, Your Royal Highnesses. This circle is about community, and you've become part of our community today. The remembrance circle was simple but profound. The children arranged themselves in a loose circle around the memorial trees, with Prince William and Princess Kate taking places among them rather than standing apart. Sophie lit 3 small candles and placed them at the base of each tree, speaking each girl's name as she did so. "B.B. King," she said clearly, lighting the first candle. "Elsie Stankham," she continued with the second. "Alice de Silva Aguiar," she finished with the third. The circle observed a moment of silence, during which the only sounds were the wind chimes and the rustling of sunflower leaves in the breeze. Then Sophie spoke again. This week we're grateful for our royal visitors who came to meet us and learn about our friends. We're grateful that Emma is feeling stronger every day. We're grateful for the new library books that Mrs. Patterson ordered for us. We're grateful that the baby birds in the nest outside classroom 2, they have learned to fly. Each child was invited to share something from their week, but participation was entirely voluntary. Some spoke about academic achievements, others about friendship milestones, and some simply expressed gratitude for ordinary moments of happiness. The sharing was natural and unforced, demonstrating how thoroughly these children had internalized the practice of acknowledging both joy and sorrow as normal parts of life. When it was time to close the circle, the children joined hands for a final moment of silence. Prince William and Princess Kate participated fully, their faces reflecting the profound impact of witnessing this weekly ritual of healing and hope. As the candles were carefully extinguished and the materials packed away, it was clear that the royal couple had experienced something far beyond a typical school visit. The final portion of the royal visit took place in the school's main hall, which had been transformed into a celebration of creativity and resilience. Parents, community leaders, and local dignitaries filled the seats while students sat cross-legged on the floor in front of the small stage that had been set up for their presentations. The atmosphere was different from the intimate classroom visits. There was an energy of anticipation and pride that spoke to the community's readiness to showcase what they had accomplished together. Mrs. Mitchell stepped to the microphone with a confidence she had not felt earlier that morning. The day had exceeded every expectation, and the genuine connections the royal couple had made with the children had transformed what could have been a formal obligation into something much more meaningful. Your Royal Highnesses, honored guests, and, most importantly, our wonderful students, she began. Today has been about sharing our story, not just the difficult parts that the world already knows, but the beautiful parts that have grown from our community's response to tragedy. Our children have prepared some special presentations that represent the journey we've all taken together over these past months. The first presentation was delivered by the school's newly formed poetry club, led by 12-year-old Oliver Martinez. Oliver had never shown much interest in creative writing before the attack, but in the months that followed, he had discovered that words could be a powerful tool for processing complex emotions. His poem, titled After the Storm, had been written collaboratively by the entire club, with each member contributing verses that reflected their personal experiences of healing. After the storm comes the cleaning up, Oliver read, his voice carrying clearly through the hall. We sweep the broken pieces, we mend what can be mended, we plant new flowers where the old ones were torn away. After the storm comes the helping hand, neighbors becoming family, strangers becoming friends, children teaching adults how to hope again. The poem continued through several verses, each one building on themes of community, resilience, and growth. The final stanza brought many audience members to tears. After the storm comes the remembering, not forgetting but not drowning, holding love and lost together in hands that have learned to be strong. After the storm comes the dancing, because music lives in hearts that haven't forgotten how to beat. Princess Kate wiped her eyes openly as the poetry club finished their recitation. The applause was sustained and heartfelt, acknowledging not just the quality of the writing, but the courage it had taken for these young people to transform their pain into art that could be shared with others. The second presentation came from the school's science club, who had spent weeks preparing an interactive demonstration about how communities work like ecosystems. 11-year-old Priya Patel served as the main presenter, with assistance from 5 other students who had created visual aids and props to illustrate their points. Ecosystems are all about balance, Priya explained to Prince William, who had positioned himself where he could see the demonstration clearly. When something disrupts the balance, like a storm or a fire, the whole system has to adapt. But healthy ecosystems have something called resilience. They can recover and sometimes even become stronger than before. The students used the school's garden as their primary example, showing photographs of how the space had looked before the attack, immediately afterward when it had been neglected during the first weeks of grief, and then during its transformation into the therapeutic environment the royal couple had just visited. Plants that might seem delicate can actually survive terrible storms if their root systems are strong, added 9-year-old Kevin Walsh. Holding up a diagram he had drawn showing how trees with deep roots and interconnected underground networks could support each other during difficult times. Communities are like that too. When we take care of each other, we all get stronger. The science presentation concluded with each student sharing one way that the school community had demonstrated ecosystem-like resilience. Examples range from the buddy system and peer support networks to the way local businesses had donated materials for the garden renovation and how families had opened their homes to children who needed extra support during difficult days. Prince William asked several questions about the students' research methodology and their conclusions about what makes communities resilient. His genuine interest in their scientific thinking clearly delighted the young presenters, who had not expected royalty to engage so seriously with their academic work. The third presentation was perhaps the most ambitious, a musical performance that had been months in the making. The school's choir, expanded to include students from several year groups who had never sung publicly before, had prepared a medley of songs that told the story of their community's journey. The performance began with a haunting rendition of Somewhere Over the Rainbow, sung as a solo by Emma Thompson in a voice that was small but remarkably clear. Emma's solo was followed by the entire choir joining in with Lean on Me, the classic song about friendship and support that had become an anthem for the Southport community. The children's voices blended beautifully, and their obvious pleasure in singing together created an atmosphere of joy that filled the entire hall. The musical medley continued with Count on Me by Bruno Mars, performed with simple percussion instruments that the children had made themselves during music therapy sessions. Some students played rain sticks created from cardboard tubes and rice. Others kept time with shakers made from plastic bottles filled with beans, and a few used small drums that had been donated by a local music store. The final song in the medley was an original composition written by the children themselves with help from their music teacher, Mr. Andrew Foster. Titled Southport Strong, the song incorporated themes and phrases that had emerged from their art therapy sessions, poetry club meetings, and remembrance circles. We are Southport strong, we are Southport brave, we remember those we love, and we celebrate today, the choir sang, their voices growing more confident with each repetition of the chorus. Hand in hand we stand together, heart to heart we'll face whatever, we are Southport strong, we are Southport strong. The audience joined in during the final chorus, creating a moment of communal singing that seemed to unite everyone in the hall. Princess Kate was singing along with tears streaming down her face, while Prince William's usually composed expression showed clear emotion as he watched the children perform their anthem of hope and determination. Following the musical presentation, Mrs. Mitchell invited Prince William and Princess Kate to participate in the official dedication of the Memorial Garden and the unveiling of a new plaque that would serve as a permanent reminder of their visit. The plaque, designed by the school's art students and crafted by a local metalworker, bore a simple inscription, in memory of Bibi, Elsie, and Alice, and in celebration of the Southport community that refuses to let darkness win. Dedicated in the presence of their Royal Highnesses the Prince and Princess of Wales, October 2024. The dedication ceremony was brief but meaningful. Prince William spoke about the importance of creating spaces where children could process difficult emotions safely, while Princess Kate emphasized the power of community support in helping young people heal from trauma. Both royals planted small roses in the memorial section of the garden, adding their own contributions to the living testament of remembrance and hope. The final element of the visit was the presentation of gifts, both to and from the royal couple. The children had prepared a memory book filled with photographs, artwork, and letters documenting their healing journey. Each page had been created by a different class, resulting in a diverse but cohesive narrative about resilience, friendship, and community. In return, Prince William and Princess Kate presented the school with a collection of books for the library, personally selected to include stories about overcoming challenges, the importance of friendship, and the power of communities working together. They also announced that the Prince and Princess of Wales Foundation would be providing funding for additional trauma counseling resources and art therapy programs that could be shared with other schools dealing with similar challenges. The work you're doing here goes beyond helping your own students heal, Princess Kate told the assembled group. You're creating models and resources that will help other communities facing their own difficult times. Your resilience is becoming a gift to children far beyond Southport. As the formal portion of the visit concluded, there was time for more informal interactions. Children approached the royal couple with additional artwork, questions about life as royalty, and requests for photographs. The conversations were natural and unforced, demonstrating how comfortable the children had become with their distinguished visitors over the course of the day. 12-year-old Sophie Chun, who had been one of the leaders in organizing many of the healing activities, approached Princess Kate with a particular request. "Your Royal Highness, we wondered if you might write a message in our permanent memory book, the one that will stay in our library forever. We want future students to know that you came here and that you understood what we went through." Princess Kate accepted the offer thoughtfully, taking several minutes to compose her message. When she finished writing, she read it aloud to the group gathered around her. "To the brave and remarkable children of Southport Community School, you have shown the world that even in the darkest moments, the human spirit can shine with extraordinary brightness. Your courage, kindness, and determination to build something beautiful from something broken will inspire others for generations to come. Never forget that you are stronger together than apart, and that love always wins in the end. With admiration and respect, Catherine." Prince William added his own message below his wife's, writing, "The resilience you have shown honors the memory of your friends and gives hope to communities everywhere. You have proved that the future belongs to those who choose kindness over fear, unity over division, and hope over despair. Well done, Southport." William. As the royal couple prepared to depart, the children gathered in the main hallway to create an informal receiving line. Rather than formal handshakes, there were hugs, high fives, and promises to remember this special day. Many children had small gifts they wanted to share, drawings, friendship bracelets, and handwritten notes expressing their gratitude for the visit. Emma Thompson approached Princess Kate one final time with a small envelope. Inside was a drawing she had created that morning, showing the 3 memorial trees surrounded by children holding hands. At the bottom, in careful handwriting, she had written, "Thank you for listening to our hearts today." The departure was emotional, but not sad. The royal convoy pulled away from the school to the sound of children cheering and singing their Southport Strong anthem from the front steps. Teachers wiped away tears while parents applauded, and community leaders expressed their gratitude for a visit that had exceeded every expectation. Mrs. Mitchell stood in the doorway long after the cars had disappeared, reflecting on a day that would be remembered by every person who had participated. The royal visit had accomplished something that months of counseling and therapy had struggled to achieve. It had given the entire community permission to be proud of how far they had come, while still honoring how much they had lost. In the days that followed, the children would talk endlessly about their conversations with Prince William and Princess Kate. They would treasure the photographs taken during the visit and incorporate the memory into their ongoing healing narratives. Most importantly, they would carry forward the message that their strength and resilience have been recognized and celebrated by people who mattered, validation that their journey from tragedy to hope was meaningful not just to themselves, but to the wider world. The visit had transformed a day of remembrance into a celebration of survival, a demonstration that while tragedy might define a moment, it need not define a future. For the children of Southport Community School, the presence of royalty in their midst had been less about the glamour of meeting famous people and more about the recognition that their stories mattered, their healing journey was important, and Their community's response to crisis could serve as an inspiration to others facing their own dark moments. As evening fell over Southport, the memorial candles flickered in the garden while the sunflowers swayed gently in the October breeze, standing tall and strong as symbols of a community that had learned to grow toward the light even after the deepest darkness.